switch it by clicking
I
on
don't want to
it.
mess with that. I don't want to jinx anything.
We've come so far, Paul.
I
Yeah.
know. That's why I don't want to mess with this. Like, okay, I'm gonna leave it alone.
I'll manage it. It's fine. For the stream, like, watch this. I'm going to click on me when I talk, and then your screen on the stream will get smaller.
Okay, but on here, because we're on Google Duo, it doesn't change anything.
No, I'm going to have to do it manually.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's fine with me. I just got to be disciplined. Okay, I'm going to cut all that when it's actually uploaded.
Okay.
Because right now, everything's working pretty good. So I'm changing the stream to public. And let's make sure everything's stable.
Ash, I'm putting these in here.
Yeah, stable enough. Okay. Okay, going hot in 5. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Man Talk Podcast number 20. This is the second time using this camera here. I've got a wonderful guest here, Paul. And Paul's here to talk about Star Wars. This is his expertise. I have some experience with it. When I talked to him about it a few months ago, all of a sudden I found out, wow, there's a whole another tier of Star Wars that I got to get used to, which is fine. This is actually a really cool experience. And over talking through over the last few months, we eventually decided to do a stream about it. So that's today. Paul, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, man. And you're being modest. You know a whole ton of it too. So I'm not. I think we're at the same level. One of us is not higher than the other. I think we know a lot about Star Wars, and that's mainly what we talked about. And just passing, and then there was a couple of days where it's like, oh man, the time flew by. 45 minutes. Oh man, we've been talking about Star Wars for 45 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah, on some of those slow nights.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you want to start on the first question, or did you want me to get in here on the introduction?
I think we can ask a couple of questions, and then you can go off and you can start on an introduction, and maybe jump back and forth on it.
Sure thing. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, how did Star Wars end up on your radar, and how did you end up getting so involved in it?
I was a kid, and the first one came out, episode 4. Episode 4 came out. This is my daughter right here. A New Hope, and that came up before I was even born. But one of the first movies that I can remember watching, time and time again, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with everything, this bad empire, evil empire, and then this resistance, this young farm boy, and the odds are stacked against them, and they go and defeat the evil empire, and I thought that was like the coolest thing, using this magic, this mystic force power to help them conquer the empire. It was just crazy. I was like, man, this is so cool. I fell in love with it. I always like knights and armor and wizards and dragons, and this is kind of like the space version of it. Well, no dragons per se, but it just drew me in. It was like all the things I liked all rolled into one. I'm like, oh man. So it was like what I grew up watching. I grew up watching Star Wars, and that's when my kids were born. That was something I wanted to share with them, and they grew up watching. I think Revenge of the Sith was like the first one that came out after they were born, and then Clone Wars, and I loved playing with my son and my daughter with the little clone troopers. It was fun. I'm still a kid. I haven't grown up yet.
Wow. So it all started just right from the get-go, really, for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My friends would make fun of me. It's like, you weren't even born yet when in 1977 when it came out. And I was like, you're right, but I probably have seen it 1,000 times, because me and my daughter will be watching it, and she'll hear me recite verse after verse after verse, and she'll be laughing, you watch this show too much. And I'm like, yeah.
No, episode 4 has something to it for me as well. One of the things I noticed was it's so much on the wizards and the knights, and you're taking out evil. And for me, it was so cool because, well, I really like the fact that you have Luke, who's really this fool, but he has the right intentions
Mm-hmm.
for doing what he thinks is right, and I gotta go save my friends, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really a lot of what he is just getting after it and finding a way to save what he can. And but he's a fool. He really has no idea of how
He
to do it.
is. Uh, I remember when they're talking to Han in the cantina, and he's all 17,000. We could almost buy our own ship for that. And then he's all, "Who's gonna fly a kid? You? Yeah, you bet I can. I'm not such a bad pilot." It's like, dude, calm down.
Yeah, there is this sense that he really is over his head, but he doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
find that out until episode 5, which it's kind of weird because you think it would take shorter than that to really run into a wall, but
Mm-hmm.
that's when George Lucas decided, okay, this is when Luke's gonna really start seeing some pitfalls, and that's
Right.
good. I mean, he has a really good character arc.
I totally agree, and it's just like one of the other questions that I remembered you talking about um, was just that how does that relate to real life? How does Star Wars relate to real life? And it's just the day to day life. It's just like some days you go to work and you're busting your butt, and you don't realize what you've gotten yourself into until hours later, and it's like, oh man, probably shouldn't have done that. I remember at my old job, it's like, okay, I got this, and this to do. I'm gonna knock it out, and then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, I think I bit off more than I can chew, and to me, that's Luke right there. It's like, man, Vader's right here. He's right in front of me. What the heck?
That's it.
It's not like in Dagobah when he saw Vader and took care of business. It's like, oh man, he's not that easy. This is real.
Sure, and you could even argue when Luke on episode 5 when he battles Vader in his force vision. I mean, he actually is kind of scarred from it, but it doesn't take him out. It's just one of those things that was planned in later. And you could argue
Mm-hmm.
that's when it came into the real fight on uh, on the Bespin Cloud.
Yeah, yeah, Cloud City.
Yeah, Cloud City.
Because I think he thought, oh yeah, here it is. This is gonna be easy, or maybe I don't know. I don't know, but we all know it wasn't easy. It definitely played with his emotions, and that was before he found out that was his dad, and then afterwards it's like, oh man,
Yeah, what am I supposed to do now? And then
yeah,
he loses his hand, he loses his lightsaber that was supposedly given to him by Obi Wan. He thinks like everything is over, and he just can't believe what he's hearing from
mm-hmm.
Vader, and and as a fool would do, he just, okay, I'll never surrender, so I guess I only got one move left, and that's when he jumps.
Yeah,
Which you could
and
argue that's almost the end of him. That could have
mm-hmm.
been the end of him, but instead, he lands, and then he's got one. He's only one move away from failure, but he gets a second wind, right? And he's
Mm-hmm.
calling out for Leia, and then Luke's out there.
Right, and I mean, I think it was blind luck because what if they were still captured? I mean, that wouldn't have been. What was he gonna do?
He was dead. He was
Yeah,
dead on arrival. I mean, the guy's
yeah,
hanging from Cloud City for his for every second. He's hanging essentially on a pull-up bar,
mm-hmm.
and then essentially when that goes, I mean, he's falling essentially what 2 miles down.
At least free fall, but again, blind luck, man.
But that wasn't the end of his story. And then what I really like about him is he really mimics Peter. He mimics
Mm-hmm.
like in the Bible where Peter ends up being a fool and he really doesn't understand Christ and he rejects him. And then after Christ is resurrected from the dead, that's when Peter actually shows up as this more mature um, character. And then you
Right,
really see him play it out in like the Book
and
of
then
Acts and in the way he writes,
right,
um, which I always thought was funny. You get like someone like the writer Paul in Romans, and it's so dense. And then we see with Peter, just every sentence has something dense to say, which is like
mm-hmm.
Luke. He has this character arc where he finally reaches Jedi knighthood.
Right, because the end of 5 and the beginning of 6, you can see that leap right there. It's just like this snot-nosed kid in over his head to this mature adult that doesn't worry him because the Force is gonna be his guy. The Force is gonna protect him.
And that's when he tosses his lightsaber. After he beats Vader essentially on the first round, and he goes, no, I'm gonna let the Force decide this. And then that's when Palpatine goes, "You're an idiot," you know. But he had, much to his surprise, because I think Luke really did do something where this is in the Force's hands, it's not in mine. And then he thought, "Wow, okay, that was dumb." But lo and behold, Anakin Skywalker's still in there.
Yeah.
And throws that guy down the power shaft. That was kind of cool. Because the guy's still like shooting lightning out of his hands, while he's getting picked up. No!
And again, we chatted about this in one of our conversations about episode 9. And okay, he's back. I remember watching the trailer for the first time. Episode 9, oh, okay, Rise of Skywalker, all right. And then hearing that laugh, you're like, wait, what? What was that Palpatine? It's like, what the heck happened? I wouldn't have never have thought he would have come back for this one. Although I think it was in Battlefront 2 that I played on the Xbox One, where part of the storyline, it actually had Palpatine in it. But I didn't know if that carried over to the movies or if it was just part of the video game. I thought that was cool, and I was hoping it would carry over. But you had Snoke, and you're like, okay, is he? A lot of people thought he was Darth Plagueis. A lot of people thought he was. I think it was Vader's apprentice or whatever. That guy that woke up Vader on Mustafar when what's his name went over there from Rogue One. Anyway, they were thinking, oh, well, maybe that guy was Snoke. Maybe Vader trained him in secret, and that was Snoke because he kind of looked like him, at least facial features he did. Maybe not as tall, but I was glad it was Palpatine. Although there were a lot of things in it that I was like, okay, so where the heck has he been for 30 plus years? And why did he use Snoke? Why didn't he just come back?
And how come Snoke's dead now? And okay, yeah. He died fat. I mean, they could have used him more.
I agree.
And instead of doing the Palpatine thing, granted, they did dig in on their history on episode 9, which was good. That was the one thing I was going, okay, you guys finally dug in. Disney, you finally dug in and found some actual basis for Palpatine coming back.
Right.
I understood that part because there's the cloning thing, and I go, yeah, okay. So it's really more the dark side spirit found another vessel. It's not so much Palpatine, but it's that. And then he even talks about, if you kill me, I will just incorporate myself into your body.
Right.
Which
he clarified that.
He did, and I think that if they didn't, the movie would have been a lot worse. Because then you don't know where all this is coming from. I kind of got a little creeped out when he said, oh, the only one that's in your corner this time is Darth Vader, and he's actually on that side. And I'm going, oh, well, he's flat out lying to her, for one.
Yeah. I think he was just trying to do what he does best, is manipulate people.
Yeah.
He plays people as a puppet.
Darth Sidious.
Sidious. I don't know how much of the Darth Plagueis book that you read or know about, but that's pretty much what he did as a young kid when Plagueis supposedly found him. He ended up. Plagueis thought he manipulated him into killing his parents, which later on you hear that he's the one that was planting all the seeds in Plagueis for Plagueis to tell him like it was all Plagueis' plan. So he was manipulating his master from pretty much the get-go. And that was a really cool book because you got to see parts of him that you didn't know about heading into the Phantom Menace. And he's just one of those characters that's just like, wow, I want to know more about him, just because how complex of a character he is. He was so cool, even though he's a bad guy. But
even though, yeah, and I mean that's the name, right? Like Insidious. I mean, they just took Sidious instead. Okay, yeah, that's the guy. That's the character.
Right. And I think my daughter was telling me that when they named Vader, I didn't know what Vader stand for. I just thought, oh, Sidious just gave him that name, and then she told me Vader is what? Means father.
Oh, in like German or something.
I'm guessing. I don't know where she got it, but I was like, huh, okay. Because I was watching one of the clones cartoons because I'm trying to watch everything chronologically, and even in some of the books, Vader is really close. He has a camaraderie with all the clones, with all his troopers. He doesn't care about the officers, as you can see. He choked a lot of them out when they screwed up or didn't please him or whatever. But he always had a close relationship with the clones, with Rex, and well, Cody wasn't really his, but with Rex. And then, then he had his kids, and then, he cut off Luke's hand, and then he was just like, join me, it's like, we will, rule the galaxy as father and son. It's like, okay. Looking back on that, I just might be, pulling at strings here, but, I just think that's kind of cool that that's what his name means. Okay.
Yeah, you could tell that he actually fought with a lot of them, especially even in episode 4 when you see him the first time. There he is. He's the one on the ship trying to go for it, and I think that there's a lot of truth in that. But then there's all this corporate downsizing that's happening with all the officers, which is oh wow, okay. So if you're an officer, yeah, you get paid more, but you've got like a 1% chance that you have to deal with Vader. Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to serve on his ship.
Yeah, a little too much corporate downsizing. And it's probably because he didn't work with a lot of them until they failed him, and he goes, you don't know what war is. Okay, you're in command. Yes, my lord.
Well, he even started with that on, in A New Hope, right? When they were on the Death Star, and then Moff Tarkin was right there, and then that guy was bad-mouthing, yeah, you don't frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Vader, and you know what? You need to be quiet.
Yeah. Even Moff Tarkin's like, hey, be professional. Oh, right. So I guess he did work with him at some point.
Well, he had a long working relationship with him because I think he met him in the Clone Wars cartoon, and I think he saved him. So I know he's worked with Tarkin for a long time.
He did. He saved his butt off of that lava planet when they got locked up.
Because he had plans. Was it hyperspace lanes? I think, or something like that. They were going to go into the core, and he had those plans. Him and one of the Jedi, the Jedi that passed away. I don't remember his name, but. Yeah, but he did work with him for a while, and then, well, of course, he passed.
Yeah, the rest is history.
But even on Rogue One, when they were attacking Scarif, and then Moff Tarkin found out about it, he's like, aren't the plans for the battle station there? He's like, yeah, we'll call Lord Vader, we're going to go there. And then, Vader shows up, they show up, and yeah, so I think that was part of that working relationship that they had.
Yeah, that's something to be said about Grand Moff Tarkin. And they after that, I mean, he's donezo when the first Death Star blows up. So
yeah,
that's too bad because he's one of the few officers Vader really did work with. That's still up there, and then everybody else. I mean, it's just okay. You're dead. And it was for Vader. It was like a professional thing. Just okay, you fail professionally, you're done. It's not like he hated him for it, which is something Kylo Ren, it was a little different. I think with him, he really did do more of the Sith rage thing, which you keep bringing up in our conversations too.
Yeah, he definitely was like, a little child. I know he hated Hux. They totally butted heads, and you can tell on both sides that they did not like each other. And, so much so that, Hux betrayed them. Let who was it? Poe, Finn, and Chewie loose when they could have been executed. But he didn't want Kylo to win, right? Isn't that what he said? Something like that?
Yeah, he didn't want Kylo to. It's weird though. I'm going to go shoot myself, just run off. I mean, you're going to be. That was kind of a risky move, right? I mean, doesn't he know the Empire's? You're only one mistake away from an officer being killed. Surprised, right. You think that would kind of perpetrate through the ranks as rumors. I don't know. I thought that was kind of strange in the film. Fire him, I would have ran off.
Yeah, maybe he just thought because he was just high up there, it wouldn't have affected him.
I think that's a pride thing. I think he really did think he could get away with it, and it's like, nope, you're not getting away with it. You're just like everybody else. I think that was a big lesson for people. Oh, right, okay, don't do that. Or if you're going to do that, do what Finn did and just flat out leave.
Yeah, he probably would have been better off, like you said, just you know what, I'm out of here.
And that would have been more fun to the film, I think, because now you've got this weird fourth character. I don't know. They could have done something with that.
Hmm.
I'm kind of surprised, though. You got these long films, and it feels like there's just a bunch of stuff on the screen. Instead
Hmm.
of, like, in 4, they really give a time to pause, and you really get to see kind of the what's going on. You know what I really liked about Episode 1? Just to talk about Episode 1 for a little bit. I really liked Episode 1 because they allowed you just to be immersed in the world.
Yep.
So when something was going on, like when the battle droids are landing, you know, you get to see all the armies and like all the companies, and they just film that, and they just do the orchestra in the background, and they allow you to just absorb what's going on
Yeah,
instead of
when they
fast
landed
pace.
in, yeah, when they landed in Theed, uh, you got to see the whole city. You know, they showed all the beautiful architecture. You showed that they were like on top of a huge cliff and looking down big old waterfalls, and it's like, wow, you get to see the whole terrain and how beautiful it was. Even when you met one of the worst characters in Star Wars, in Jar Jar, you know, they were running around in the forest. They went to the Gungan city, and you got to see all of that, you know, their architecture and stuff, and it was just like awesome. I there was parts of one, not that I hated one, because there were parts that I really liked, and then there were some parts that I was like, okay, probably could have done better, but you know, I'm fine with it.
Hey, Jar Jar could have not had the annoying voice. That's simple. But as far as everything you got to see, I mean, going through the planet core was kind of a different experience. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're actually really far away, so we got to do this super high risk maneuver to get through.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool. The pod racing thing was kind of weird, but I did like it. It's
Yeah.
just there's about 15 minutes of dialogue that I just want to skip through. But once you're in the pod race and you're actually there, wow, this is kind of cool. You got a bunch of stuff blowing up and you're going pretty fast, and he's got
Right.
problems with his pod. Um, there's that guy with the 4 engines that he gets frustrated and all his engines blow up just at the start line. You know,
Yeah.
that was good.
Jabba.
Yeah.
Jabba was there, and you know they were showing, you know, a little bit to what Tatooine was. You know, as a planet controlled by the Hutts, controlled by gangsters and traders and stuff. And when he met Chuck Watto, and they were trying to buy that piece of the Nubian technology for the hyperspace drive or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and like, oh, okay, okay, you get to see it. So I liked it, but again, there was parts of it that, you know, I actually wish there was a little bit more of Darth Maul in that, where you can, you know, see a little bit more of him, because uh, one of my issues with the whole saga is they bring in some of these characters that are cool, and you don't know too much about them, and then they kill them off. Originally, it was Darth Maul until you found out that he wasn't dead. Boba Fett, obviously, he was the first one. You know, oh man, he's cool, dead. But
Yeah.
then,
He gets eaten
is he not
alive,
dead,
supposedly.
or is he
Yeah.
dead? You know, depends what's canon and what's not. Uh, I really like Captain Phasma. I thought I would have liked to know more about Captain Phasma. General Grievous, another one. I thought he was a freaking cool character. And
Granted,
then,
they gave him some time in the Clone Wars, right? Like
true,
so they give a subtopic where you could see him be a coward and run away. I mean, you see that in Episode 3, but it's cool to actually, okay, he's not going to die in this one. He's not going to die in this one. He's going to run off somehow. You kind of understand
Mhm.
how the pattern's going to go.
Right. But those are just some of the characters that, you know, it's like, oh man, I wish I could expand more on these characters. And then, you know, they met a supposed end. Well, in Grievous's case, we know he's gone, but they did, you know, expand more on in the Clone Wars. Darth Maul, you thought he was dead, and then he's not, and they expanded more in, I think, Rebels, and a little bit in Solo, maybe an upcoming Kenobi movie or show like The Mandalorian. I don't know. That's something that I'm hoping for, because I think that's something that they can expand upon, because he's one of the cooler characters. But
And
you know,
I did like Maul, and a lot of it was because you just have this guy that's just he looks like the devil.
uh-huh.
I mean, that's kind of the idea they were getting.
Mm-hmm.
Horns, except more than two. You got them all over his head. You got the red face. He doesn't say very much, which is
Nope.
different. He's not a deceiver. He's just a
Mm-hmm.
I'm an assassin. I'm gonna take you out. and I'm
Hmm.
not going to hide who I am. And then and we talked about this before when those doors open up and you just see him. See, they did a good job presenting him without it being super fast. It was just
Hmm.
that was like a 5 second scene of those doors opening up, but they made it slow enough where you could really take it in and
Hmm.
understand the gravity of the situation. And then Qui Gon leans over, "We'll handle this," and then okay, we're gonna go around then.
Yeah.
Everyone leaves. Yeah, all right, we're done.
Yeah, my daughter was playing some of the score from I think the Phantom Menace, or maybe it was for maybe just the saga in general. That scene, that score, when the doors open, she played that. Every time I hear that, that's the first thing I think of. The doors opening, and there he is pulling his hood off, and okay, let's go to town. It's time to go. And what I really liked about him is, you mentioned the deceiver part. He pretty much beat both of them with nothing underhanded, just straight up fighting.
Just fighting.
No deception, no nothing. Just straight up, hand to hand combat, and he defeated both of them. And I thought that was just really cool because usually you get these bad guys that are just like, oh, okay, and then they, throw sand in your face, you can't see, and then they disarm you, and oh, okay, I can kill you now or whatever. No, he just straight up beat both of them.
Yeah, and if it weren't for his pride, I mean, and Kenobi's connection to the Force, I mean, other than that, he had him dead to rights if he wanted to.
Right.
And that was something that, I was reading up Kenobi. He really wasn't that special at first, but he put in the time and the effort where
Mm-hmm.
he represents being all that one person could be, but not being talented from the start. And I think
Right.
that's what made him a respectable character.
Well, I think that's another reason why I'm more interested in his backstory after episode 3 all the way to 4. What happened? What did he do? How much did he help Luke? Or how much did he protect Luke? Because for all we know, there was maybe some of the Inquisitors after Luke, and he intercepted them before they got there. And I think that would be a cool storyline. I mean, you could probably do a couple movies just based on that, or like The Mandalorian, a couple of shows, a couple seasons, um, just on his life in Tatooine or wherever the heck else he went.
Well,
I don't know.
Ewan McGregor, he's going to come back, right? He's
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
going to do it.
yeah. We just don't know because I heard it was a movie, but I was reading just recently some of the shows that they might want to do, and they mentioned a Boba Fett show, which I don't know how that would work because he is a Mandalorian, but he's not a Mandalorian. He's a bounty hunter, and you have the Mandalorian, so okay, whatever. And then you have Kenobi. I think they have another one for the Rebels or something like that. So I don't know. Um, Other ones that I would like is like Ahsoka. I mean, what happened with her? I think that she's a cool character they can build around too.
I think they could. She survived, if I'm not mistaken, at first.
Yeah.
She survived the
What
initial wave.
what they said was that she was one of the Jedi speaking to Rey. She was battling Palpatine,
No
and I was like,
way.
oh, I don't remember hearing it. So the next time I go to watch the movie, still want to watch it one more time, episode 9, as I'm gonna keep my ear open for that.
Yeah, because
Oh, okay.
I thought I heard Qui Gon's voice. Did I?
Yes,
Yeah. So you got Kenobi's in there. You had Luke's in
Yoda.
there. Yoda
Hmm.
was in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we're behind you, like they said.
I think that was okay. That part of the movie was okay in 9. To jump to 9, since you were talking
Hmm.
about it. 9 at least got that part right where it's not so much about Rey anymore in that fight against Palpatine. It's more of just
Hmm.
the Jedi versus the Sith.
Yeah,
It's she's a
versus
vessel
evil.
for it. It's not
Hmm.
that she's awesome. It's that she's being used as a vessel for it, just
Hmm.
like Palpatine was.
Hmm.
Because that's not really what you consider the real Palpatine. That's more of the dark Sith spirit that was in the vessel of Palpatine.
Right. Yeah, I think that what I would have changed personally was I would have had each of their Force ghosts pop up. I thought that would have been cooler,
Dude,
because
I
it
agree.
would look more intimidating too. It's like here's Palpatine, getting ready to finish her off, and then she gets up and boom, 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 all around her are all these Jedi's over the course of the years that have been eliminated by Palpatine and his forces. And I just thought that would have carried more weight.
I think it would have too. I mean, you just have like a whole line of Jedi that go, not on my watch.
Yeah.
and then you got Luke like right in the center or something, leading the way. We've taken you out before, we'll do it again, but this
Right.
time for real. Um,
Yeah, I totally agree.
I thought it was cool when he raised the X-wing, Luke, when he was a Force
Oh,
Ghost and all that. But
yeah.
honestly, I wish they did something better with Luke in 7 through 9.
Hmm.
But I at least appreciated the way he went. It was more of like Enoch in the Bible, where the Force just took him up. It's not that he actually died; it's just that
Right.
he's become one with it. Kind of like Yoda. Yoda died. I mean, he was dying of old age, but he didn't die in the same fashion that someone in old age would.
Right.
He too kind of got swept up by the Force.
Yep. Yeah. And I liked it. And Obi Wan, in a way, I mean, Obi Wan, was with Darth Vader's saber, but it's just like, I did my thing. They're safely away, and I can go. My time here is done. Because you don't know. We talked about this with everything that Kenobi had gone through, over the years.
PTSD, lots of it.
Exactly. So we don't know how much of that affected him because he was trying to protect Luke, and that's what he was. He was buying them time so that they could get out of there. Um, so okay, my job here is done. I can go now.
Oh, and also, I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine. He goes, I need to train Luke in a way that transcends my human form. My
Mm-hmm.
human body, I mean, you could tell by the way he's going. I mean, that's the
Mm-hmm.
first lightsaber fight ever. So Lucas kind of thought that out.
Right.
Um, so it's not really a very active lightsaber fight, but you can tell he's old. The guy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, my physical body is restricting me from what I can actually do. I need to transcend this.
Right.
But at the same time, I also need to not be a target for Luke, and I also need to just buy time for him, which is the main one was buying time, but I think those two other things in the back of his head was going on.
And I think that would have been if they, kind of used that in episode 9 with Luke and Ray. Instead of having Leia do the training, where, okay, yeah, she did some training with Luke, but you didn't expand upon at all. So Luke it should have been like the Kenobi thing, just with Luke training her. I
Right.
think that, in my opinion, gone a long way too. It's like, okay, maybe some people would have been mad. It's like, oh, okay, he's just doing the Kenobi thing. Well, that's what happens. He communed in the Force, and now he's a Force ghost, and he can train her. Look at Yoda. Yoda was popping up still with Luke.
Yeah,
Why
that was
couldn't
kind of weird the way he was presented in 8,
it? Mm-hmm.
because he actually looks more puppet like
Mm-hmm.
instead of the CGI that I'm used to in the
Right.
prequels. So I thought that was an interesting choice. Um, I don't know if that does him more favors or not. I kind of prefer him the way that like episode 2 and 3 had him.
Right.
Um, that seems to be a more continual way to look at it. So, and it wasn't quite the puppet. That's the other thing.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, there was a couple of scenes in I think it was episode 1. I think when they were walking, or maybe it was 2. I don't remember, but it showed him actually walking, or maybe he was sitting in a little hover thing where he didn't look like a puppet, but he didn't look like the normal Yoda we've been used to seeing. I was like, man, it's different seeing him that way, you know.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop too, and he was smiling a little too much for Yoda, in my opinion. Yoda's not a smiler. He's not a smiler. So when I saw him, failure is the greatest teacher. I'm going, oh, okay, this is this is a mutation of Yoda,
Right.
it, which I didn't appreciate because usually Yoda is more of a stoic figure.
Uh huh.
Luke isn't stoic at all, in my opinion,
No,
which
no,
is fine. That's his character. That's him.
exactly.
Um, and Mark Hamill, the guy who plays Luke, he's not stoic either, which is awesome because the two really integrate well,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I think he's got a big fan base. I mean, he really is playing and trying to be that character, but
Yes,
it's
he is.
also him, so he's not
Well,
really lying to you.
you even said that he didn't like how episode 8 was, right? Because he's
Agreed.
all, well,
Yeah.
that's not Luke. That is not Luke at all. And we could
Only
talk
the
about.
end had anything to do with Luke, in my
Mhm.
opinion, where he's actually doing something
Even-
crazy.
I just think him running away was not him.
It's not him. And that's what Mark said. He goes, Luke wouldn't run away at all. He said,
Nope.
through all of 4 through 6, what was the answer? I've got to go save my friends. And saving them isn't about running away because, oh, they're just going to die because I'm a big target. That's not it at all. He'll just fight everybody. That's what he did. Jabba the Hutt, this guy, oh, I'll risk it. There's only one Jedi that's able to do it right now, and I guess that's me. And then, you got R2 that shoots him his lightsaber, and then he catches it, and the guy's swinging for the fences. I mean, the way... it's not the same thing that 7 does at all.
That's why when the very beginning of 7 was when what's his name, Lord Tanaka or whatever, the guy giving Poe the map.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, why the heck is Luke missing? Did he get captured? I mean, he doesn't run away.
All of
So,
canon says he doesn't run away.
I just didn't understand. That was one of the things I didn't like about the Force Awakens. Even though it was a copy, a updated copy or updated version of A New Hope 2.0.
Sort of, but I mean, even the way Rey's running around, we're still going, well, who is this chick? 1, and 2, why should we care? With Luke, we understood why we cared enough. You got somebody who's trying to get in the rebellion. He can't get in there, and he needs to find a way in.
Right.
His home's blown up, so you actually get to see that part. Rey, she didn't even have one. She's already a scavenger. So you don't get to see that emotional impact of, well, I don't have a home anymore. If they did something like that, and that would be more of analogous with A New Hope, you could see why she has to leave. But as far as we know, Rey could stay exactly where she was, and that could have been it.
Yeah. And yeah, I was for a long time. I was like, okay, is that Luke's daughter? Because why was the saber calling out to her? To me, that was a question that never got answers. I was like, well, first off, how did they get that from Cloud City? And then second, why would it be calling out to her?
And that's a long fall, man.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
And
Give me
the
some
sabers
answers,
usually don't call out. It's usually more the crystal.
Yeah.
But still, we're going, no, it's more of a... If anything, it would be more of a Force ghost saying, we need you to go find this. It should be somewhere around here.
Which actually leads me to one of Jamie's questions.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this one it's actually, she has 2. Okay. Why do you see the green saber when Luke almost kills Ben in the hut? Where did Luke's sabers go? And why did Luke only give Rey Leia's saber? Why didn't he give her his? Rumor is that he was ashamed because he almost murdered his nephew. Did he destroy it? Where's Luke's saber?
That I know. You'd think he would have always kept it, which is again against his character. The guy had to have his hand chopped off before he let go of his lightsaber. Just saying.
Right.
So, to me, it's almost as if he gave it to somebody, or it just with the canon that we have now. Luke wouldn't do that. He'd have it somewhere.
Right.
Also, when he chucks the lightsaber in Episode 8, I'm going, that's so flippant. That's not him either. So they disrespected the character. The good news is Mark Hamill transcended that, I think. Even though they screwed up the movie, everyone still loves him.
Right.
And they still appreciate Star Wars as a whole, which is weird because you don't always see that in movies. Sometimes the film's ruined and, well, I'll just not watch Star Wars anymore. That's not what happened. People just went back to the old ones.
I did. We have old ones right here.
Yeah, it's right there. I mean, I just watched that one myself in preparation for this, and it's so cool because I feel the impact with those old ones, and they had their technology was so much less. But even in 2000, in that case 2005, They took the
Mm-hmm.
best of what they had and they made it look awesome. And then
Yes.
we don't care if, I mean, it didn't have to be the most advanced TIE fighter.
Nope.
In their case, they just made what they could. And
Mm-hmm.
it was more about the character development. It's, as George Lucas said, it's more of a space opera.
Yep.
Uh, and if you don't have that, then you just have a bunch of spaceships running around, and that's not what people
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Some, but we also want to see the progression, evolution of the story, and
Right.
he did that. I mean, that's one reason why Lucas, during Seven, when he oversaw it a little bit, he goes, "I'm washing my hands clean of this. You guys can have it. I'll make movies that I like. I did something different with Star Wars every film. If you guys just want to rehash it, that's on you. You did buy it, so go ahead."
Yeah. Which I do hope that in the future they allow him to, you know, direct another one the way he wants to do it. I mean, because he could probably direct one and they're like, okay, this is what we want to do. And he, like, well, I don't see that happening. But I hope that he gets free reign and let him do it on his own. Um, I I really really hope that they are going to do an Old Republic one trilogy or maybe even a saga, and I hope they start do it with Darth Revan. I think that you can easily get 6 to 9 movies just based off of that. There's so much history. There's so much written about Revan, and it'd be cool because you see the light side, you see the dark side in him, you see him changing, you know, and it's just like us as people. You see us changing. Everybody does. I mean, like me, I'll drive I'll drive 80 miles an hour. I'm breaking the law, I'm being bad, but I do stuff at work where I try to help everybody. Everybody has a little bit of darkness in them, and with him it shows. Okay, here I am. I'm trying to destroy the Republic, and oh wait, no, I need to save the Republic. I need to do what I need to do to help save the galaxy and rid them of the Sith.
That's something
So
good storytelling does. Is
that's
that,
one of
yeah,
yeah, and
um,
that's one of my favorite stories. Darth Revan's storyline, or Revan's storyline, Darth Bane's storyline, and I really liked the original trilogy. Those 3 stories are probably my favorite. That's why I've seen the original trilogy countless times. But even Bane, how Bane started out, he was on a Patros in a mining world, and his dad beat him. His dad beat him and blamed him for his mother's death. And you know, it wasn't for anything. It was he was just being a kid, and that this is the hand he's dealt. His dad just getting drunk every day and beating him. I mean, how many people nowadays can relate to that? And he took the negative in it. Only the powerful survive, and he's the one that founded the rule of two, and we don't need all. We don't fight together. You know, we need two master apprentice. We're gonna make it strong again. And when the apprentice is strong enough, challenges the master and he beats the master, you're strong, you get your apprentice, and keep on going. And our line will never be weak. And he's one of my favorite stories. Bane, Revan, and the original trilogy. Those are my favorite.
so my
What about
favorite
you?
would be, in my case, I loved KOTOR as well. Um, KOTOR was awesome. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Revan to me is an ultimate redemption story too. So that first one's great.
Yep.
The second one can kind of play either way, but I really like just Revan. The real story is Revan starts as a Sith Lord and he ends up being a reconciled Jedi Knight once again, and he rebuilds from the ground up, which is it's almost like he had 2 lives, and he was able to do the second one even better than the first. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved episode 6 because that's when Luke really matures to the point of a Jedi Knight, but he's still a little over his head. But he takes the risk and says, if the
Jedi
Force
Knight.
wants it to happen, it's going to happen.
Right. I I can agree with you on that. I have another one from Jamie. You
Uh-huh.
ready for this one?
Ready.
At the end of episode 9, it is revealed that Leia had a force vision that she would have to sacrifice herself in order to save her son, who went to the dark side. She told Luke this. If he knew that Ben was going to have to go to the dark side and Leia was going to have to sacrifice herself to save him, then why train Ben? Why try to murder him? Their fate was set. Or why wouldn't Leia train Ben if she's strong as Luke with the self? Then why is this her brother? One of the things I can of is I think Yoda and I believe the Force is always moving, right? You know, you might have a vision of something, but that's just one of many things that can pan out. And even I think that's what Sidious was using against Anakin. You know, he was giving him this vision: Padme's going to die. Padme's going to die. And then that's what he thought. Oh man, Padme's going to die. I need to do something. But if he didn't do anything, he just stayed the course. I mean, we don't know, but things probably could have been fine, right?
It would have gone with the
So
books and
I think
everything else.
with the whole Leia thing, I think what they did was fine. Just try to train Kylo. I think, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. But what about it? Do you think Leia kept on training him, even though knowing he could have gone to the dark side, or not train him at all, or
So I'll give the stream
what?
just a second to catch up because it's getting a little finicky. But so I'll say about Leia, if they kept the status quo, I think they would have gone with the books. If you know what I mean. So if you would have gone with the typical canon. And I think that's something that the director said, well, we want to do something different than the books and the comics and some of the extra secondary info out there. And I think that was why we're going to do something different for our own unique sake. And I think that's kind of what screwed him over because the alternate story wasn't as good. As you said, if Leia didn't do anything, you would have had none of this. And they could have kept Leia around in the same way that they wanted. And they could have made a different Sith Lord show up instead. Which there was one, and it was a crazy chick that had essentially been trained by Palpatine as an assassin, which, if you really go down the rabbit hole, ends up being Luke's wife eventually.
Right. Which, that was the whole thing. Okay, is Rey his daughter? I mean, I was disappointed with, they have so much material, and then they went their own way. And it's like, well, it's not supposed to be Ben Solo. It's supposed to be Ben Skywalker, because that's supposed to be Luke's kid. And it's like, come on, man. You guys... And there were some parts of it I guess I kind of liked, but there was just, you have all this stuff, here, make a good movie out of it.
Yeah, they kind of bit off more than they could chew, and just because they wanted to do something for the sake of being different, which is too bad, because they really could.
Cool character in Mara, no Mara Jade. And I think that they could have done a lot with her character.
But too little too late on that one. Unless they remake all of them, which I would say, if anyone gets to do that, I think they made enough money they could. Do you remember I think they made like $2 billion or something off of 7.
Yeah.
So I would have put like part of that money towards a GoFundMe to just redo them again. Try them again. Just the whole sequels, just all of them.
Well, like we were talking about the other day. Remember I told you about the J.J. Abrams, that Star Trek that he redid?
Yeah.
It was basically they went into like a wormhole, and then it changed like the course of time or events. Do that with Star Wars. They hit a wormhole. Okay, let's redo some things. Oh
Hey,
man, Mara is here. Okay, cool. It, I just wish they would have captured some. I just wish they would have taken so long to do episodes 7, 8, and 9, where you'd still have time to make more episodes past 9 with some of the same characters.
and it was weird because the way that it was designed was they didn't have like this break. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
each episode usually has a few year break, and then now you're
Uh-huh.
in a new episode. You're in a new world. Poe's
Mm-hmm.
older or something, and so is Rey, and now Rey has lost connection with the Force for some reason because someone's messing with her with a Jedi hologram. I don't know, just something that changes the game where it forces them to develop, and because
Yeah.
they don't develop until the last movie because they finally got enough criticism for the lack of development. Um, it was painful to watch that one because you really had to see it all in one film, whereas
Right.
we're used to seeing it in chunks. But what choice did they have? I mean, they set their course wrong from the beginning, so they
Mm-hmm.
just had to somehow loop it. Um, and
Yeah.
that's
Two of the things. Sorry. Two of the things that were sticking out. I mean, there's many, but two of the things that have just popped into my head right now that kind of bugged me is one. This I like that they had the Sith dagger. And it's like, oh, cool, a Sith
yeah.
artifact. Awesome. They have never shown any of this. And then how she like is holding it up and she pulls it out and it's like, oh yeah, that's where it's at. And it's like, wait, what? No,
No, it's on the blade. They're old. They're old Sith. They barely knew.
no,
This is like pre Vibroblade.
right.
Yeah.
I was like, at least have it to where maybe she holds it up and it shows like a vision or something, or it just has a strong connection to this part of the Death Star. Okay, but pulling that little thing out and then, oh yeah, it's right there. It's like, oh come on,
It's
that was
not calibrated for something that didn't exist yet. You know
exactly.
that I thought it was cool it pulled out, but the fact that it was an actual instrument. No, Sith Lords were about murder and
Uh huh.
cloak and dagger stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Take out the people that are strong so they can be in the leadership position. That's them. So they're not thinking about calibrating, doing Copernicus level stuff with their daggers.
And then the other thing, my daughter and I were talking about this. What was Finn trying to tell Ray? Ray, do I love you? Uh, Ray, you know what? I have force powers too. What was it? What do you think?
Oh, for sure it was the love thing. Come on. He
That
had
was
it
your
in for
thing?
her. Oh, he did, but he couldn't bring himself to say anything.
Well, my favorite part from, well, not my favorite part, but one of my favorite parts to laugh at from the first one is, you got a boyfriend, a cute boyfriend? It's like he's just totally into her. Okay, but I would have preferred Finn's character being a whole different. He was force sensitive. He realized it. He didn't want to be doing all these evil things, in the First Order. So he left, but he was a good fighter. And then you build that between him and Phasma, how they just disliked each other, and you have a better fight scene than what they had in 8. But have him, force sensitive, and then in this one, it's like, hey Ray, I am, force sensitive. You even had those kids on the Canto Bite force sensitive. I don't know if you remember that, the kid that pulled the broom up towards him
Oh,
at the very end.
no, I don't
And
remember that. That's a good subtlety though. Um,
yeah, it was right at the very end, that one that Rose gave the ring when he went out to go sweep those bins or those pens. He's out looking in the horizon, and then he goes like this and grabs the broom. I was like, oh, it's very very subtle because like the broom is close by, but he pulls it towards him. Like,
huh.
oh, okay, well, they're force users, so that makes sense. Finn is force sensitive or whatever. It makes him a little bit better than the character he was. I really didn't care for
They
him.
really could have done the KOTOR thing where
Mhm.
Revan, now Finn wasn't like a Sith Lord before, but it was just, oh, he is a combat veteran that kept being a fighter, and then
Mhm.
the Jedi discover him like Luke, or hey, can you do this? And then I can. Well, here, let me show you. Check your midi-chlorian count. Yeah, you could do this if you want to join. We're always looking for new members. He could have been the academy. We didn't get to see the academy. That was a big loss because we saw it in a lot of different video games like Jedi Academy, where Luke's the head, and you got Kyle Katarn, which is an awesome character. Used to be in the Empire.
Was his right-hand man, right?
Yeah, and
That was his right-hand man.
That was his right-hand man, and you got to see the Padawan thing starting to show up again, which before it really didn't. I mean, they're still trying to rebuild an order to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they just said, nah, the Jedi Order already blew up right from the get-go, I'm going, that's what we wanted to see. The rebuilding of it. Because
I thought in 8, if they got rid of all that Canto Bight stuff and expand on Luke's training, the Jedi Academy, and the Knights of Ren. Because you didn't even say the Knights of Ren. It's like, okay, oh, Kylo Ren, the master of the Knights of Ren. Okay, these guys must be freaking cool, you know? And then, okay, you barely see him when Episode 9 when Kylo's kicking their butts. But, okay, they could have been, you know, some of the Jedi that were in Luke's academy that Kylo took and trained. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. And he has some Force users on his side. Okay, cool. I get it. But you have nothing but just like a couple of images and, you know, Luke saying what he did, his point of view, and then Kylo saying his point of view. Oh, he tried to murder me. He was going to attack me. I woke up, blah, 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 blah. And instead, we got Canto Bight and gambling and
yeah, it's silly, and they had so much to work with, and for as many hours as the films were, that's what was disappointing.
Right.
Is that you had a lot of time to do it, you just needed to schedule it in and work with some of the canon. It didn't have to all be from the comics and stuff, but you know, digging in a little bit like they did in 9 was probably all they needed to kind of calibrate for that.
I agree.
So speaking
you didn't need
of
all of it. I think you needed some of it.
I think some of it was fine. It just kind of got weird in a lot of those films, and like for example, the force healing of Kylo Ren when he gets stabbed, like that's a big, you know, a flip off sign to Obi Wan Kenobi. Oh, you didn't know how to use force heal. Sorry, one of the coolest Jedi masters that ever decided to be around. He gets to die. Liam Neeson, who plays him, you know. I was pissed.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. Obi Wan Kenobi wasn't good enough. Because that's like.
In his defense, he was still a Padawan, right?
Still, it's the fact that it's. And Kylo Ren could have died like 5 different times, legit, confirmed kill, but he doesn't. Somehow he makes it, and 3 of them were in Episode 9.
Well, the bowcaster too. That's the one we talked about the other day.
He should have died from that one. I would have been fine with that. Oh, cool. Kylo Ren's dead. They got to come up with somebody else.
And then here comes Sidious, or you expand on Snoke, right?
Or Snoke trains up somebody else. See, that would have been funny because he keeps training up new people to keep dying. Yeah, but
well, that's kind of what was happening with Sidious. Darth Maul dead. Count Dooku dead. And then, okay, I got Vader, my new apprentice. Okay, cool. And then, okay, Kylo Ren. Okay, it sucks. He's Leia's son. Okay, dead. Okay, now we get Snoke.
Yeah, and it's only because Anakin is like the chosen one is why he lived for so long. Unlike everybody else, which they're in a high risk Jedi Sith relationship. So before you know it, they're canned. But yeah, like when they killed Qui-Gon, I'm still going, oh, Force Heal, huh? And there's memes all over the internet now about that, which are just priceless. and I love that scene because Obi-Wan sees his master get killed, and Liam's like, oh, I messed up. And Obi-Wan goes crazy on Maul. And I think he goes crazy in a way that he doesn't even go crazy in episode 3. Like, he is using everything in 3, but in 1, there's like this 110% that's being pushed
Right.
because I can't mess up. Qui-Gon's dead. I'm going after Maul. And you remember that he hits him dead on to try and match his power, and Maul's like, nope. And then Obi-Wan realizes he's in over his head. And it takes the Force. It takes the Force to really get over it.
With Luke in over his head, and then he gets Force pushed back, falls down, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to beat him with brute strength because I am no match for him. My master just lost to him, trying to beat him with brute strength, and it's not going to work. What do I got to do?" But what I liked about it was that he did give 110%. He was just going. Was he using anger? What was he using?
Oh, there must have been. I'd say he at least had emotions. So I think emotions are like that neutral, but plus or minus. It can sway. So he's swaying towards the dark side, but he's not dark side.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because remember what Palpatine was doing? He was manipulating Luke. I could feel your anger. Take your Jedi weapon. Use it. Strike me down. Give in to your anger, right? That's exactly what he said. And then Vader's just right there. And Luke's he has all that. His emotions are just festering inside. He's all, your friends are going to die. The rebellion's going to be crushed. Your father's still mine. You're going to be mine. Just poking him, constantly poking him. And finally he flips. And then he doesn't I think even Vader was messing with him too when he was talking about his sister, when he was talking about Leia.
Sure.
And then he again, right?
That was the worst one.
Yeah. He doesn't know what he did until he cuts off his dad's hand, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, well, he sort of. I mean, he cut off the mechanical hand, right?
Right.
Well, he's all got mechanical limbs, but that's beside the point.
But so that hand is my hand that he cut off, and now I repaid that debt or whatever.
The eye for an eye. Yeah, it's been complete. And in the case of Sidious, he's trying to get him to strike him down because I think because he embodies that Sith spirit, he's kind of waiting to maybe I could get Luke into a new body or something. And I could see that connection. But what I also could see was it's that emotional twist. It's not that he's being dark. It's just that he's toying with him that could lead him down the dark path.
Right. Because what did he say after he cut his dad's hand off? After he cut off Vader's hand, he's like, your hate has made you powerful. Right?
Yeah. But so he's using some of his emotional strength to do it. But that's not... that wasn't the fight, though. I mean, the fight was really to get Palpatine to really be KIA. Vader was really just there because who else has been there with him the whole way? Everyone else he's done is either killed off or survived through, which is too bad because, I mean, if he never really believed the Emperor, he probably could have kept his wife may have still died, but it would have been a totally different story.
But from what I've read, the Emperor is the one that was just, again, the master manipulator because, Padme did not die because she gave up. From what I read is that Sidious killed her. Because if she lived, what is Vader's not going to be his? He's going to try to go get back with her, have a family with her because those are his kids. So she had to die.
So it's really Sidious found a way to your anger you killed her. It's more he was stirring him up so that way he would. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's crazy.
Yeah. And he bought everything hook, line, and sinker. He just was easily manipulated.
That's nuts. So I think it's been about an hour. But I wanted to ask, what other Star Wars stories inspired you or that your favorite? Because that was a lot of this podcast.
I can't. It's hard to just pick some of the stories. Like I said, Revan stuff, because you know he made a mistake in joining the dark side, and then he redeemed himself, and he came back to the light. So just that's something that you can have, that I can have in real life. It's like, oh, I've done this crummy thing, and now I can redeem myself. Um, and that it shows that we can all be corruptible, we can all do bad things, but that doesn't make us a bad person. We can still redeem ourselves and learn from our mistakes.
Sure, and you could argue that the Force, there is this higher good that is
Mm-hmm.
acting in behalf of humanity and has a will of its own that says, yeah, you made that mistake, but maybe by my grace, you will be able to turn around. It doesn't have to happen, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're willing, maybe it can. And then when you see people say, maybe I can, and then the Force kind of gives them that, yes, you can, and then
Right.
now they're in it. And I really like that because that's analogous to Christian ideology, but it's also just it's a great message for that one mistake doesn't define you. That 100
Mm-hmm.
mistakes doesn't define you. You can come back from this. There is a purpose. It's not nihilistic. There's a
Mm-hmm.
greater good that's happening whether you're a part of it or not.
Right. I I would totally agree with that. Um, my kids have some questions, and I shared one with you the other day.
Okay.
Uh, this one's from Ashley. Do you think that the sequels were unnecessary to the storyline? Right at
So,
and
okay. The second one.
no, go ahead.
Okay. So, the sequels, as Disney wrote them, I thought were unnecessary. I thought because what I said before 15 minutes ago, we could have, I was asking for them to redo them. So,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, they were not really accurate. For example, George Lucas, I mean, they asked him, is Emperor Palpatine dead? He goes, yes, he is. He got thrown down a electrical shaft. I designed it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way they treated Luke was just so bad. Other than how he transcended life, that was the only thing that was good about eight, about Luke. Everything else they did was demeaning to his character and not his character. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually, for Rey's character, Daisy Ridley, and for Adam Driver, who plays Kylo Ren, they're not bad actors, but they were given a role that just doesn't fit them. So they
Yeah.
do it badly. That could happen to you or me if we were put in
Mm-hmm.
their shoes. That wasn't their choice. That was the director's bad choices that were integrated into their roles as an actor. Um,
Yeah. I liked Adam Driver. What he did, I thought he did a great job. But it's just some of the stuff was just like, okay.
but that was the director doing it to him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Adam Driver did his best to at least, okay, this is what they want. This is what I'll do for them. This is what's in the contract.
Mm-hmm. And then this one's coming from Andrew. Which planet is the most interesting to you? Looks wise or just the history? I mean, Droman Kos, Tython, Korriban, Hoth, or maybe even Dagobah. I mean, which one is the one that's like, oh man, that one has like a lot of history, or there was this happened there. This was where the Sith were born.
So that man, that's tough. Let me talk about some of the ones I do like, and then maybe I can whittle it down. So I love Kashyyyk because that's where the Wookiees are. There's
Right,
a
that's my favorite.
there's all of these trees and there's history below in the Badlands, if you will, at the bottom of the tree line,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you can find the Star Forge piece. There's all these bounty hunters going down there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I really like that part. I also like Coruscant a lot, and that reminds me of Terrace. So to me, Terrace blows up, so I got to use Coruscant. But it's but
Okay.
but
Speaking of
both.
which, go ahead.
So Coruscant has a lot of history too because it's got all these buildings. Again, you got the bounty hunter thing going on. You have that's where the senators are. That's where the Jedi Temple is.
Uh-huh.
So the Jedi history alone is already enough for me on Coruscant. Um, and then Yavin 4. because that's where everything else begins after Episode 6. So
That's why they have BBY, right?
yeah,
Before the Battle of Yavin, that's where their time starts. Because I
so
was like, what the heck is that? So they're, Battle of Yavin is, you know, where like kind of like when Jesus, after death, BC, before Christ, and so that's what that is. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's their big moment in time. All right, I
it,
get it.
I get it too. So if I had to pick from all of those, um, as much as I hate the city life myself, I would say Coruscant has the most Jedi history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go with that one. I mean, when the first episode came out of the prequels, and you get to go up that
Yeah.
elevator and you get to see the Jedi Council, I go, ooh, there's a lot of them now.
Yeah, that's the first thing I saw. I was like, wow, that's a whole lot of Jedi.
Yeah.
You went from Yoda, Kenobi, and Luke to wow, I can't even count how many Jedi's there. Wow, look at the archives; they're freaking huge.
Yeah, all the books and stuff in the second episode, I was blown away. So their history was, and that's part of their job is maintaining the history of their order, but also just history in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Monks, right? Monks and scholars.
yeah, they're the monks and scholars, and you could argue they're like the Knights Templar, um,
Mm-hmm.
the good side of the Knights Templar, because the bad side is where they're essentially a death squad. Um, but that's
Yeah.
not them. They're warrior monks, exactly in that term. So
Right.
they'll
Well,
they'll
you had mentioned Kashyyyk, a few minutes ago. You're playing Fallen Order, right?
yeah,
Have you gone to Kashyyyk?
not yet. No.
Okay, because when you talked about you're in the Rocher trees and then you travel all the way up pretty much and all the way down, so you get to see the depths of Kashyyyk. So it's very interesting. It's actually cool to see, and there's a lot of creatures down there that you get to interact with. So that's what I was asking when you
They
brought
got a
that up.
lot of creatures down there, and in KOTOR and in the first battle, it was the second Battlefront
Yeah.
for the GameCube. When you're playing
Hmm.
on Kashyyyk, I thought that was bomb. They got the tree line and the sandy beach scene, so it's like this amphibious assault going on. That was like my favorite map.
Yeah. I think my son and I really like Geonosis. That was one of our favorite maps.
What makes that a favorite?
I don't know. I think that's just the one we played the most. So we were just used to, all the caves and caverns and just the landscape. It's not that I liked it. I preferred like Felucia or something like that, but
Oh, the jungle. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know why it was his favorite. Like I said, I think it's just because we played it so much, and that was one of the maps that we played the most.
I mean they were getting that desert vibe, right? So you're fighting you're almost fighting like Operation Iraqi Freedom, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
So, but except in this time, the Geonosians are all uh, in insurgency operations. So it's
Hmm.
almost like you're fighting the entire country of Iraq. That's kind of the
Right.
impression I got. Um,
And I think because I remember playing that one, I think one of the things I didn't like is because it was just easy to hide in the trees and you couldn't see stuff. Just sometimes it made it difficult, from what I remember. Or maybe I'm thinking about another Battlefront, but I think that's what I remember playing.
I remember the first Battlefront, Kashyyyk was a little different. Um,
Hmm.
you could probably hide a little more on that one because there was a second floor.
Hmm.
So, so those are the two questions from your kids. Were there any other ones?
Uh, no, I mean I have a whole bunch of questions, but I think that's something we can talk about later because some of them did get answered, but I definitely want to try this again, and
I'm
hopefully we
down.
can have another guest or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a good time. Like I said, I think I had about a dozen questions, and I think we answered about a good 7 or 8 of them. So
Cool. That's another stream for another time.
yeah, and then we'll have the whoever else participates, get their questions, and we can continue.
Very good.
So
Well, Paul, I'm going to end the stream real quick. Thank
okay.
you, everyone, for watching. Thank you again, Paul, for being on. This has been
Yeah, no
great.
problem. Thank you. This was awesome. My kids were right here the whole time listening.
Oh wow, they got to hear the whole thing live. It's like a live stream.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks again, Jacob.
Hey,
Appreciate
you
it.
got it.